Today we're here at the Rose Hill Memorial Park Cemetery here in Massillon, Ohio. And we're here to find a pioneer and an innovator of modern day football, Coach Paul Eugene Brown. Let's go see if we can find him. Now once you're at the entrance of the Rose Hill Memorial Park Cemetery, there'll be a gate to the right and a gate to the left. You want to start making your way towards the left side gate to find the grave of Paul Brown. Now in a nutshell, Paul Brown was the first coach and the name behind the Cleveland Browns, but was also the first coach and the co-founder of the Cincinnati Bengals. He was also the coach of Ohio State when they won their first championship. And here's that road that'll lead you to Paul Brown's grave. The first thing you will see is a map of the cemetery. We're in section B. I love that the base of this flagpole is in the shape of a star. Here at the entrance of the Rose Hill Memorial Park Cemetery. There's the road that we came in. There's a gate here and a gate here. There's the sign where we did the intro to the video. You want to come in the second gate. And when I turn around 180, this is what you should see when you pull in. You'll see a beautiful chapel in the distance in front of this grassy knoll. There's a street to the right and a street to the left. And you should be coming down this street to the left to find the final resting place of Coach Paul Brown. Now in some of my famous grave videos, I only have the opportunity to pay respects at the final resting place. But there are special occasions such as today that I could show you so much more. So today we're going to take a few trips around Ohio. I'm going to show you Paul Brown's childhood home, his street and statue in Norwalk, Ohio, along with his high school stadium, museum, and of course his final resting place right here in Massillon, Ohio. So let's get started. We made it to the very small town of Norwalk, Ohio, which is the birthplace, childhood home, and a brand new statue of Coach Paul Brown on this foggy and rainy day. Good football weather. Here we go. Here in the corner of Benedict Avenue and 7 West Elm Street, here in Norwalk, Ohio, this is where the seed was planted for professional football in Ohio. And of course I'm talking about the Cleveland Browns and the Cincinnati Bengals. This is the home where Coach Paul Eugene Brown was born on September 7th, 1908 to parents Lester and Ida Brown. We're here at 7 West Elm Street, right here in Norwalk, Ohio. I read recently that volunteers from the local Norwalk football team came together right here to help remove vines and weeds and scrape and repaint the garage. They edged the sidewalk, put mulch down to help preserve where Coach Paul Brown was born. Right here in Norwalk, Ohio. Now, even though there's no historical plaque or marker here, wait until you see the incredible tributes they did in downtown Norwalk for Coach Paul Brown, who was born right here in Norwalk, Ohio. All right, moving on. Here on the corner of North Main Street and Church Street in Norwalk, Ohio, Look at this incredible tribute. They named the street Paul Brown Way. And I love this custom street sign that was made locally right down the street at the sign shop Foghorn Designs here in Norwalk, Ohio. So a little shout out to them. Let's go see if we can find a brand new statue of Paul Brown. And right across the street from the Paul Brown Way street sign, you want to make your way over here to Shore Family Park. And this is where you'll find the incredible statue of Coach Paul Brown in a small town where they're proud to call him one of their own. Hey, perfect timing. And here it is, right here. He's wearing that iconic fedora hat and sports jacket. I love how he's standing on the state of Ohio at the base of the statue. They have all of his information and accomplishments on this granite stadium behind him, if you will. They have all the teams that Paul Brown was a part of, starting at Severn and Massillon High School, Miami University, Ohio State, the Great Lakes Navy team, and of course the team that bears his name, the Cleveland Browns, and finishing his career with the Cincinnati Bengals. That's quite a resume. Now the idea for this statue started back in 2022 when the Paul Brown Birthplace Committee kicked off a campaign that included corporate sponsorships along with engraved bricks and granite blocks. Donations came from nearly 200 individuals, families, and businesses towards the goal of $100,000. The community definitely stepped up by raising more than $171,000. The statue was finally revealed to the public on October 21st, 2023. Now, I don't think this has been a elementary school since the 80s, but I love the old architecture of it. You can tell this is before the internet and cell phones and technology. Probably early 1900s, late 1800s. Reminds me of the elementary school I went to about 30 miles away from here. But it still says Benedict School right there. We made it to Benedict Elementary here in Norwalk, Ohio. And this was the elementary school of Coach Paul Brown. He went here up until 5th grade, and at the age of 9, his father Lester, who worked for the railroad, would be transferred to Massillon, Ohio. So the Brown family picked up and moved to Massillon, and that's where we're heading next. Welcome back to the Rose Hill Memorial Garden Cemetery. We're still looking for the final resting place of Coach Paul Brown. I figured since we went to Norwalk, Ohio to see the spots of Paul Brown as a boy, we would take a few trips around Massillon, Ohio to find some spots that he grew up as a teenager. Let's go check those out. We made it here to Massillon High School, where Paul Brown would spend his teenage years thriving as the starting quarterback. This is also where he met his first wife, Catherine, during a fire drill of his junior year. Just wait until you see all the amazing tributes they have behind the school here at Massillon, Washington High School, home of the Massillon Tigers. We made it to Massillon High School, and look at this incredible tribute. They named the stadium Paul Brown Tiger Stadium. This is where Paul Brown would be starting quarterback his junior and senior year and took the Massillon Tigers for a winning record. He would also come back 6 years later and coach the team on a winning streak for another 9 years. Let's go check it out. Now, not only did they name the stadium after Paul Brown, they also included this life-size statue of Paul Brown as a coach when he coached here for 9 years to celebrate his 80 wins, 8 losses, and 2 ties, with most of his losses happening within the first year. So you could say for the last 8 years or so, the Massillon Tigers dominated under the direction and coaching of Paul Brown. And right over here next to the statue, they've placed this Ohio historical marker that kind of tells the story that we've been telling by actually going to all the places. It says Paul Brown, born in Norwalk, Ohio and raised here in Massillon, is a member of the Football Hall of Fame. He was one of the greatest coaches in history of football at all levels. He was here at Massillon High School from 1932 until 1940 with a winning record of 80 wins, 8 losses, and 2 ties. He would go on to coach Ohio State to their first national championship. We made it inside Paul Brown Stadium, and this has got to be the most professional looking high school stadium I've ever seen in my life. It's here in Massillon, Ohio. Now back in the 20s, Paul Brown was the Massillon High School starting quarterback. The Massillon Tigers went 15-3 during his 2-year tenure as starting quarterback. After Paul Brown graduated, he would leave for Miami University College, where he was quarterback for 3 years. It was 6 years later that Paul Brown would come back to this high school of Massillon to start his iconic coaching journey. From 1932 to 1940, Paul Brown's head coaching record was 80 wins, only 8 losses, and 2 ties, with over half of his losses coming only during his first year. Paul Brown would move on to Ohio State University from 1941 to 1943, where he coached the school to its first national football championship in 1942. And that all started right here at this stadium that bears his name. Paul Brown Tiger Stadium. All right, moving on. Welcome back to the Rose Hill Memorial Park Cemetery here in Massillon, Ohio. We're still looking for the final resting place of Coach Paul Brown. I figured since we went around and found all of Paul Brown's childhood memories, we would go to Cleveland Brown Stadium and talk about how he got started in professional football. So let's go check that out. We made it here to Cleveland Brown Stadium, which used to be Municipal Stadium. That was before the Science Center and Rock Hall were even around. It's got the old entrance down there with the field goal post. That's been closed off for years. Now I was lucky enough to go to Municipal Stadium to see the Cleveland Browns and the Cleveland Indians. If you were lucky enough to see an event at the old Municipal Stadium, share it in the comments below. Now this is where the Cleveland Browns were born, if you will, back in 1944, when Cleveland businessman Mickey McBride acquired a new franchise in the American Football Conference, hiring Paul Brown as the first head coach. This is where back in 1945, the team held a newspaper contest to name the team. The most popular submission was Browns, in recognition of the team's first coach and general manager, Paul Brown, who was already a popular figure in Ohio sports. Now Paul Brown was kind of against the idea at first, but the name stuck, still to this day. Thank God he was the first coach. Could you imagine the Cleveland Belichicks or the Cleveland Schottenheimers on a jersey? Here's the infamous Jim Brown, running back for the Browns. And if you look across the street here, they have some memorial plaques on the side of the stadium here. And I'm pretty sure I see Paul Brown's right over here. And there it is. Paul Brown, coach with the Browns from 1946 to 1962. He's enshrined in the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 1967. Now, unfortunately, Paul Brown would have a falling out and was fired by then owner Art Modell back in 1963. Yes, the very same Art Modell who was responsible for moving the team to Baltimore in 1996. I think it's safe to say we won't be seeing an Art Modell statue anytime soon in Cleveland. But now, as the old saying goes, everything happens for a reason. Paul Brown was still hungry for football and would go on to start a brand new team in Cincinnati as the co-founder and head coach. What a better way to get revenge on the owner who fired you, but to go out and start up your own professional football team in Ohio nonetheless, and then come back to beat the team that bears your name. And that team became the Cincinnati Bengals, which is still an incredible franchise today. Now let's go pay our respects to the late, great Coach Paul Brown.
I'm Greg Hort.
And I'm Jerry Springer. Last night, the man they call Coach, Paul Brown, died in his home in Indian Hill. He was 82.
Now you might be asking yourself, why is Jerry Springer, of all people, announcing the death of Paul Brown? Well, fun fact, Jerry Springer was the mayor of Cincinnati from 1977 to 1978, and then would later go on to be the local news anchor way before his tabloid talk show started in the 90s. And I think I found it. And here's Paul Brown's grave. Born September 7th, 1908, and died August 5th, 1991 from complications of pneumonia. Paul Brown is buried with his late wife, Catherine Brown, who we met at the high school we were at earlier, and his son, Peter Brown, here at the Rose Hill Memorial Park Cemetery in Massillon, Ohio. I love how somebody left him that fedora hat that he would always wear. It says here he was a U.S. veteran. People have left footballs and Cincinnati Bengals and Cleveland Browns memorabilia, along with a Massillon Tigers coffee mug for the iconic Coach Paul Brown, who was actually a lot more than just a coach for professional football. He was a pioneer and an innovator in so many ways. He was the first coach to use game film to scout opponents. He invented the playbook, the modern day face mask that you see on helmets, the practice squad, and the draw play. He would also be the first coach to break the color barrier by bringing the first African Americans to pro football, including this man right here, Jim Brown, which in my opinion is the greatest running back of all time. So my first memento that I want to leave for Paul Brown is Jim Brown. No relation, except for the fact that the last time the Cleveland Browns actually won a championship is when these two men were involved about 60 years ago. Now, we all love our Cleveland Browns, but they are definitely due for a championship. I also want to leave this Coach Brown trading card that I've had for many years. I'll put that right there. Don't want to cover his name. And like I do with all the famous graves that I go to, I want to leave my YouTube magnet. If you come visit Paul Brown in Massillon, Ohio, and find my magnet, feel free to take it. But leave the trading card and the Jim Brown figure for the iconic coach, Paul Eugene Brown. Well, that's going to do it. We really enjoyed crossing all over Ohio, finding these spots of where Paul Brown grew up and got his name. And until we meet again, I just want to say thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Rest in peace, Paul Brown.
I'd like to be remembered as a worthy coach and person.
We made it up here to the second floor of the Massillon Museum in downtown Massillon, Ohio. And right around this corner, they have a free museum dedicated to Paul Brown, one of Massillon's favorite sons. He grew up here from 9 years old. And right at the entrance, they have that iconic fedora hat that he used to wear. I like how they have it broken down from when he was born in Norwalk to moving to Massillon, Ohio, playing football for Massillon High School, and then going to college at Miami University. And then this section is about coming back and coaching at Massillon High School. Look at the date on that championship game ball, 1940. The next section is about heading down to Ohio State and coaching down there. And then it starts getting into his NFL days with the Cleveland Browns and Cincinnati Bengals. Already recognize that jacket from the Pro Football Hall of Fame. It says he was inducted in 1967. And I really like this Wheaties box they got here. This is the first high schooler to ever be allowed on a Wheaties box. His name is Chris Spielman, and he went to school right here at Massillon High School. It says the Paul Brown Museum opens at the Massillon Museum on October 26, 2018. That's where we're at right now. But I love how they laid out this Paul Brown timeline with artifacts and the entire story on this free museum wall. I highly suggest coming to check it out if you're in the Massillon, Ohio area, to pay tribute to this man right here, Coach Paul Eugene Brown.